Yo, peace and blessings, blessings and peace. It's the boy Jarmel Reece, and I want to share my experiences with you. If I had to put my life in one word, I would have to say ridiculous, man. From growing up in one of the worst neighborhoods in St. Louis, Missouri, launching a successful music career, recording with some of the top names in the industry, and launching my own clothing line, traveling the world, discovering the power behind yoga and meditation, and how it can heal the mind as well as the body. So tune in to my show, Just a Thought. Follow the story, like the page, subscribe. Let's write the rest of the story that you've always dreamed of. Peace and blessings, blessings and peace. It's the boy Jarmel Reece. See you soon. Peace and blessings, blessings and peace. It's the boy Jarmel Reece, man, and welcome back to another week of Just a Thought 2.0. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave comments, man. We always interested to be able to, you know what I'm saying, see what it is that you feeling or what you like. All right? This week I got a very special guest, man. Brian Frishcosy, man. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be out here with you. We out here in Phoenix, Arizona, man. It's a beautiful place. Make sure you get to come out, man. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm amazing, Jarmel. A really pleasure, being here and stuff.
Man, pleasure for you to be here. So
For sure.
Hey, I met this brother the other day, and we just got to really going, you know. And I was interested in him because he was telling me what he did for a living, and it was just very inspiring for us. Like we just started just going in about conversation.
For sure.
So tell people what it is that you do for a living.
So I'm in a health, wealth, and happiness. So I kind of narrowed down to that. My main focus and my main passion is teaching the 99% financial literacy education.
Yeah.
So what I teach people is how to safeguard their money in tax advantage accounts, how to grow their profits and not lose money in an account. I mean, everyone knows what a 401k is and how it goes up and down with the market and stuff like that. And so what we do is we put you in what we call an index universal life plan. It's a specialized plan that most of the 1% use to safeguard their money. It's non-discoverable.
Yeah.
You can't be sued. You can't get it and stuff like that. And it just keeps creating wealth. And what it does is actually builds generational wealth through life insurance plans, and it just replenishes every time someone passes away. One thing we do, we have to die.
That's it's an unfortunate thing to hear, but it's the reality of the matter, right?
It is.
And so, actually, I want to touch on those things a little bit later about being able to build generational wealth, because we want to be able to help a lot of the people that we are actually servicing to be able to build generational wealth and how they can be able to get in contact with you, right? But I want to start, like, how did you get into health, wellness, and happiness, right?
Health, wealth, and happiness,
And where's your story? Where does it come from? And where are you come from? And how did you get here?
I grew up in a average family. We had a farm, per se, in Washington. We raised cows and chickens and pigs, and my mom had her garden. My dad was an oil refinery worker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom mostly. She did work time to time as a security guard and worked at the oil refinery sometimes. And then we came up, technically I was an only child from my real dad and my real mom, but my stepfather raised me as his own. And my two half-brothers and my half-sister were blood to me. And they still are. And I really didn't know, actually, he was my stepfather until later on in life.
Wow.
But still, in that same concept, he always took me, under his wing. And through that, he was in the military. And while he was at work, I used to love going in his closet. Of course, all kids, raid the kids' closet, right? For sure. So putting on his old Army jacket, his old Class A's, going through his picture album book, and seeing the smiles and the happiness on his face while he was hanging out with barracks guys, And so that projected me into the military.
Okay.
And so at 18 years old, I went into the oil refining business, obviously, and then I went into the reserves. And so I went to basic training. Loved the military. It was something that I felt like I was bred for, almost trained for most of my life. At a young age, that was my dream, was to be a soldier.
Okay.
And so through that, I went from the reserves to active duty. I went in active duty in 2001. We all remember 2001, 9/11.
Yeah.
So I was actually stationed in Korea at that time. I was on leave in Washington when 9/11 happened. I actually woke up that morning and was going to go to the Puyallup State Fair, which is the Washington State Fair there. And my girlfriend at the time worked at a bank.
Okay.
So we stopped by the bank to pick up some cash. And all the girls that knew I was in the military, and they're like, "What are you doing home? What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, you didn't hear what happened?" I was like, "No." So they showed me the towers collapsing, and it hit me so hard because I was like, how could this happen? You know, how?
Yeah.
You know, and
it was a crazy time.
It was.
I remember
it was.
that it was a crazy time. I remember being
Truthfully.
I remember being out of school, and I remember so I was working at this job,
Mm-hmm.
and it just looked like a movie.
Yep.
It was like I
For
couldn't
sure.
believe that it was happening. So, you know, but go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we still decided to go to the fair, and so on the way, I'm listening to the news. They people took over these things with box cutters. Me being a pretty decent sized guy, a military person, I'm like, how do you let a guy take a plane with a box cutter? Like, there was no men on the plane. There was no one standing up. Right. So it's very, you know, detrimental to me. I feel like, you know. Anyways, you know, one leads to another thing that'll happen. So I ended up getting a call from my unit in Korea, and they said, get to the airport until military space gets opened up. And so I actually drove to SeaTac the next day, and I spent 4 days with every service branch I knew out there. And this is before Space Force, so they weren't out there. So it was just like the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, you know, Marines. Anyways, it was like a sea of sea bags, which are duffel bags.
Yeah.
Soldiers just sleeping on bags because we had to wait. And so it was about 4 days, 4 days before airspace got open. We all went to wherever we went, right? So I ended up back up in Korea. So fast forward past there, I went to Iraq in 2003. I actually volunteered to go early before my unit, and we rode the ships for security force. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there was actually pirates in Somalia, and they would actually take over the ships, just like Captain Phillips. And so the civilian ships carried military equipment.
Yeah.
They also carried millions of dollars, and I didn't know that until after we got off.
Oh man.
Right? Because they had the option of paying their guys in cash or a check. And so they would carry like $4 million, you know? And so anyway, so I rode the ships over for security force, and I got to Kuwait about mid-February, right? So major conflict started in March, and it was over in like 20 some days, right? So I was attached to another unit. Anyways, we pushed up into Tikrit. And my job was a bridge crew member. So it's called a 12 Charlie. And so I operated the boats. And so we actually built the longest float bridge in combat. It was 200 plus bays. We actually had 3 different units because we didn't have enough equipment to build it ourselves. So we actually had 3 different Army units that helped build it. So fast forward a little bit from there, I leave combat in 2003. I ended up out processing the military about 3 months later. Went back to an oil refiner, something I knew, right? That familiar, that
so this is when you're out of
for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
And where are you at now?
Minnesota.
Okay.
So I'm living in Minnesota now, and my girlfriend that I met up there in some special training that we did at a base. So this is I met her, and like I said, I moved to Minnesota. I was working in oil refineries, and then I started doing some amateur MMA, some cage fighting and stuff like that. Well, I got into drugs. Methamphetamines to be exact. And so one thing leads to another thing. I became homeless.
Yeah.
You know, it truly took over my life for a long time. I was really forced, or not forced with, but suffering from what they call survivor's remorse.
Yeah.
Why did I live and others died?
Yeah.
I wasn't major conflict, but we still saw dead bodies. We still saw blown up people.
How was that though, man? Like,
I turned 23 out there. For a 22-year-old, I call myself a kid then. I still was a kid.
Yeah.
For a 22-year-old kid, it was rough. It was hard.
Yeah.
You know, it was difficult. I mean, watching 17-year-olds get shot around you. The closest thing I came to was a mortar went off on guard duty one night, and it landed in the river, and I got wet when it exploded. And if it would have hit land, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where like it really grips you and goes, wow. Was that meant to be for me?
Yeah.
And because of the water, it saved me and stuff like that. So,
no, I get it, man. You know, what's crazy is that even, you know, it's like growing up in a neighborhood, like some of the neighborhoods, I know one of the neighborhoods that I grew up in, it was like, you know, one of the kids that I grew up with got killed, right? And it affected me a long time. But we go so long when you're in war, it seems like even in these places, you're like at war. And you got this survival mentality on that you can't look back and you got to keep your blinders on, and you got to move forward. But then when you look back, you start realizing all that stuff just brings a lot of trauma on you.
Right.
And I can only imagine, man, with like one of our soldiers, basically a soldier, you come back and then you find your way into drugs. Like
Right.
that starts from all of that never gets help from it, right?
For sure.
So go ahead.
So it was almost numb myself. So I drank and I drugged myself into numbness. And so it was to stop the voices. I did hear voices. I was suffered from a lot of PTSD. I'm a disabled veteran with PTSD. And I still to this day suffer from it. It's been 20 years, you know, and like certain things. But anyways, when I was in Minnesota, I ended up losing my jobs because of drugs. I mean, I still function because I mean, I'm ADHD. And so I was on Ritalin when I was younger. And so I don't know if a lot of people know, but it's actually methamphetamine. And so when I was on meth, I was chill.
It was actually chill for you.
It was like when most people smoke marijuana. And so I functioned on it. I still worked. I still went to work and everything. Eventually, I lost my job. So that led me into being homeless. And in the dead of Minnesota winter, I lived in a tent in the back of a trailer park.
Minnesota is cold.
It's cold.
If nobody's ever been to Minnesota, Minnesota is cold.
It is beautiful for 3 months a year. The other 9 months you don't see it.
Yeah,
it's under snow. So for sure. So luckily in my survival skills, I fished.
Yeah.
I snared squirrels and rabbits and stuff. I ate edible potatoes and whatever else was edible out there. And I've always been an entrepreneur. To rewind a little bit, when I was a young kid, I actually used to sell candy because I wasn't a big candy eater.
Yeah.
I used to sell candy to kids at school when I was in 5th grade and 6th grade. And so I'd sell bags of them, like my Halloween candy.
No doubt.
So I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? So fast forward a little bit back to being homeless, I actually bought a dump truck from a crackhead for $400.
Look at that.
And so I started hauling scrap steel for the guy that owned the trailer park. He had some trailers that people just, you know, left and abandoned. And so I'd go in, I'd pull the copper wire out, I'd strip the copper wire, take it in for salvage, I'd tear down the building, and then I'd cut up the frames. And I'd start hauling scrap steel. And I made about $1,000 a load. And so give or take profit, it's about $800 with gas and stuff. Like driving all the way down to Minneapolis and stuff. But eventually I got to the point where I could buy a trailer in the trailer park. So I wasn't homeless no more.
Right.
So here I am pulling myself out of this, right? Eventually I stopped doing methamphetamines. I don't know if I said this, but I used to do a lot of weightlifting. And I'd spend 3-4 hours in the gym, you know, and I was about 265, 270, pretty decent, you know, not no 6-pack or anything, but pretty decent size. The 2 years I was on methamphetamines, I went from 265 to 180 pounds.
Dang.
I truly looked like Skeletor.
Wow.
And I think that's when I really realized I need to quit.
Man.
You know, it wasn't the homelessness either.
It was because you know what? I'll say this all the time, man, because I've been in the same, like, homelessness, right? Been without what they would call homelessness at the time. You learn a lot, especially when you're a hustler or you're an entrepreneur. You learn way more how to pull yourself out of that.
For sure.
But like you said, it was your appearance that made you be like, what's going on with me?
Right.
And so go ahead, elaborate.
It was almost like, I know I've watched a couple of your videos, you love the mirror routine and your affirmation. So when I looked in the mirror and I saw myself, because people used to tell me, man, what happened to you, man? You used to be big. What happened? I'm like, man, I'm still big. Man, I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, and it was real.
Dang.
Like, it was like admitting like you're an alcoholic or a druggie, you know, being an AA or NA. Like, you actually see it and your subconscious sees it and you're like, this is what you did to yourself.
Yeah. And
so it was like a light switch flipped. And it was like, I'm done. At the time I was making methamphetamines, I was selling methamphetamines. I destroyed everything I had. And
what you mean you destroyed everything you had?
I mean, I had pounds. I mean, like I said, I was making it. I was manufacturing it. And so I had pounds. And so I destroyed everything. I threw down toilets, I mean, pipes, whatever, all, you know.
The people around you thought you was losing your mind, huh?
Basically, probably. Well, it was just me and my girlfriend.
Oh, what did she think at the time?
She wasn't into drugs.
Okay.
But I do know that, and this is a side story, it's kind of funny, that I do know you can get contact high from it, because we stopped at a stop sign one night and I was twacked out of my mind, and she was driving, of course, because she didn't do anything. And she told me, we're sitting there. I'm like, what are we doing? She's like, I'm waiting for it to turn green. I go, if that stop sign turns green, I'm getting out of this car as fast as possible. You know, I'm just like, my heart, you know, it's like,
You said if the stop sign turned
what do
green.
you mean if the stop sign turns green, right? So I'm just like, inside I'm dying. There's another one, obviously. I came in my house one time, and Tom and Jerry, the mouse,
Yeah.
was life size on my
What?
couch, drinking a margarita. I didn't know if I was more upset that I had margarita mix and I didn't know, or that there's a life-size cartoon mouse talking to me sitting on my couch. And so I've been there on the 6 and 7 day runner.
You've been on there,
sleep deprivation,
man.
bush police, you know, looking at the blood,
Yeah,
you know,
the bush police.
the bush police. Yeah, so I've been there, and like I said, I don't know if you ever read Think and Grow Rich, but it's one of the books I've read multiple times.
Oh,
and
come
so
on.
right, and so I made a decision.
Yeah.
I turned into a burning desire and I quit.
Yeah.
And I may have touched it here and there since then, but it was more like, oh, hey, we're at a party, and then they just pass around like, oh, I don't do that stuff no more.
I understand what
you know,
you're saying.
Things like that. You know, it's like today I don't drink no more. It's like even the point, like sometimes I think about it, I'm like, you're not a drinker no more.
Right.
I've changed my paradigm, like Bob Proctor said. I've changed my identity. I'm not a drinker.
Yeah.
You know, so when I hang out at bars now, it's like, oh, you're good. You're not a drinker.
Yeah.
You know, so I drink the water and hang out and enjoy my chum.
That's deep, man.
For sure.
A lot of people don't get to a place where they could be able to have a paradigm switch.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that comes a lot to play with some of the stuff that you were telling me even from the beginning.
Right.
You already was an entrepreneur.
For sure.
You went to the military, you just had a hard time coming out.
Yep.
You already knew discipline.
For sure.
So the reality of it is that once you get something stuck in your head, you're gonna automatically do it.
For sure.
And so, you know what I'm saying, that's a blessing in its own that you can look back in it and be able to see everything kind of like full circle for you. And so like keep elaborating on like the happiness part of it. So I'm pretty sure this all led to your happiness, right?
It did. So I used to always say, most common theme is most people are like, hey, when I become a millionaire, I'll be happy. Well, at the time, about 6-7 months ago, I started reading a lot more books. I read this one book, and I can't remember the name of it, but I read this one book, and it said, why wait to be happy? Just be happy now. Man, it's a state of mind.
That's it.
And so, like Wayne Dyer said, you know, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that really resonated with me. It's like, wow, it's all in my mind, and I can change it with my thoughts. And so your thoughts equal your feelings equal your actions equal your results. If you don't like your results, change your thoughts.
There you go.
Right? Yeah. Most people change their actions.
Yeah.
It doesn't start with your actions.
No.
It doesn't start with your feelings. It starts with your thoughts.
Yep.
There is nothing in this world that was not created first with a thought. You look at this picture right here. These guys looked at a bird and they went, I'm going to fly.
Yeah.
And they sat there and they tried and they tried. And what did they do? They failed forward. And they learned. And they grew and they enhanced and they changed, right? I read this book the other day too. Change, when we actually change and we hear the word change, our body thinks it's being tortured. Our brain chemistry will actually start giving off frequency the same as being tortured.
Yeah.
You know, so change is hard for a lot of people. You have to change. Like I said, when you get to a dark spot, it's sad to say, but the dark spot is what really makes people change. It's like most people that are overweight.
Yeah.
They get to a point where they're just tired of being made fun of, or a chair breaks on them or something like that. And they're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I always say that, man. You know what? It's something, what is it, catastrophic. It has to happen to you in order for you to be able to move. And some people either, and even with the saying, many are called, few are chosen.
For sure.
Many are called. Everybody gets the call.
Right.
It's only a few that choose to be able to pick up the phone and answer it. And you know what I mean? Like that's the hardest thing, to be able to find that determination inside of you to be able to keep going. You know what I mean? And for you, where did this determination come from, and how does it keep you going all the time now? Like, to not go back to a place like, hey, I don't want to do drugs anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Truthfully, I think a lot of it came from my upbringing, but a lot of it I feel like it came from the military. Like, they teach you a lot of discipline and stuff like that. And I learned the saying, self-discipline is self-love.
Yeah.
So if we have the discipline to discipline ourselves, then we're loving ourselves.
Absolutely.
We choose to put food in our mouth, whether it's a bag of Doritos or a nice pot of lentils and rice, right? I know you're not a meat eater. I know,
for sure. So I know exactly what you mean.
I've done the same thing for times. Like, I'm like, man, I want a hamburger right now. And it's like, no, you know what? why don't you look at that pan of grease after it's solidified, and then think about that being in your body. And sometimes there's that mindfulness of eating. Sometimes you look at things going, that's not fuel for my body.
Mm-hmm.
That's just fun.
Let me
right?
let me say
go
this to you, because what you're saying is something that choice and accountability. We live in this world now where accountability is like thrown out of the window.
True.
It's out of the window, right? And most people think that they think, but they don't even think. Right?
For sure.
And so
you got it.
Where does that, because I know some of the things that I do. What do you do to allow yourself to stop and think? Because I think the main thing people need to learn is to pause.
Right. That's so true. And so what I've actually learned in the past couple months is what we think about when we enter REM sleep is what we get the next day.
Yeah. Elaborate. Come on.
So I don't know if you read a lot of Neville Goddard, but anyways, I've been into his books for a while.
Yeah.
And one thing that he says is when you start going to sleep, that 20 minutes before you go to sleep, you start programming what you're going to do for the next day. So I meditate before I go to bed, and I think about what I'm going to think about, right? Most people and I've heard this story a long time ago, don't go to bed angry.
Yeah.
So you go to bed angry, you're going to get more. You don't understand your subconscious is always, do you tell yourself to breathe?
It's subconsciously doing it. Yeah.
Your body to digest food. You tell your body to pump blood. Like my hands are moving right now.
Yeah.
In the lightning speed. I mean, your body.
You don't have to tell it to do it subconsciously.
For sure.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning and my body's healed from the day before, because why they always say, like when I worked out, you grow more at nighttime, and I figured out why. You're fasting. Your body does two things. You either digest food or you repair itself.
Yep.
So I do intermittent fasting a day, and I know you've done some long fasts too.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. I go in a couple of day fasts or even a day and a half fast, but I tell you what, I definitely want to try the 21 that you talked about. I definitely.
But you know what?
My hat's off to you. That's amazing. 21 days.
But I tell you what, you know what? I think implemented fasting is more important. You know what I'm saying? When I did that 21-day fast, man, that was actually like life changing.
Right.
Like you said, it definitely can take you there. But those 2 and 3 days of knowing how to be able to be thankful and learning how that, man, that's important. Nobody's doing that.
Right, for sure. And it's even waking up in the morning and saying thank you to yourself.
Yeah.
Just look in the mirror and go, thank you for another day. What are we going to do today? What are we going to experience? Being in the present moment, because there's no past, there's no future. Because the future hasn't been made until today.
Yep.
And we don't know tomorrow's even going to come. That past actually just sets us where we are now. People are like, well, where am I going to be in the future? I don't know, look at the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because if you don't change, it's going to be the same thing as you've been in the last 5 years.
You know what? And that's, a lot of people make that mistake right there. I remember I used to make the mistake, it's going to take me 2 years to do that. It's going to take me boo-wop years to do that. Well, think about how many years it's gonna take you if you don't do it. For sure. And that's the part that I think we sometimes that's why procrastination is a thing that we do.
Well, it's almost a disease.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I don't know if you follow Ed Mylott much, but he always says when you do something right, it doesn't come to fruition for 6 months or a year. But when you do something wrong, it's 60 to 90 days later you realize it.
Yep.
You maybe eat that bag of chips going, this don't do nothing to me. Well, it's not instant. It's just like our thoughts. Everyone's like, what do you mean I go to think about? So if I think about an elephant right now, an elephant's going to pop in the room? Well, no, not really, because you have delayed gratification. And your subconscious gives you time to think about it. That's why you got repetition is key. I believe it was Bruce Lee says, I'm not afraid of the guy that knows 10,000 moves. I'm afraid of the man that practices one move 10,000 times.
I'm trying to tell you.
And repetition is key to everything. So
it's the most important thing that we could possibly do. And when I tell people that, it's practicing healthy repetition. Because a lot of the times what we do is we get caught up in autopilot. Some people are living a life in autopilot and think that is called repetition. That's not healthy repetition.
Right.
Autopilot is not a different entrepreneurship or not entrepreneurship. Healthy learning every day is a great thing with repetition involved. But doing the same circle is a hard thing to do. But I wanted to elaborate a little bit more about even too with your happiness, where you were talking about how you've taken that story from coming out from being a
Right.
veteran
Hmm.
and helping other
For sure.
veterans with
So being homeless and a disabled veteran with PTSD and facing alcohol and drugs, I became a partner in a behavioral health counseling company. And so we're going through the process right now. We're new right now. We're 2-3 months. We've been in the process of going through our health lessons, getting all this stuff. I just got certified as a peer support specialist to even help people right now that need help. To kind of get a little dark, I've experienced a lot of suicide in my life.
Yeah.
And witnessed to a lot of suicide too. I worked in Alaska one time, and I was talking to this guy on the stairs, fellow coworker, not my company, but another company I worked with. I knew him, but didn't know him, right? And we'll call him Dan. And so Dan, I was talking to him on the stairs. I'm like, hey, partner, what's going on, man? He's like, oh, nothing, man. I'm like, hey, we're barbecuing outside. We built barbecues and stuff. We bought some steaks and stuff. We're barbecuing. Anyways, he's like, no, I'm good. And I remember this is the rest of my life. It was 9:13 the next morning. And we got a call on the radio. We need help. We need help at the bunkhouse. The chief engineer was like, we need help. We need help. So me and my other buddy, he was an EMT, volunteer firefighter back home. And so me being in the military, the chief engineer was a Vietnam veteran. We always help him out. We run around the bunkhouse, and here's Billy's body. His body was laying by the bunkhouse, and his head was 4 feet from his body. And we looked up, and I saw a noose hanging from the 3rd floor window. And I'm just like, wow. I just talked to this dude 12 hours ago. Like, I didn't even know what he was feeling. You know, I didn't know what he was thinking or anything like that. And here's his eyes were still open. His hair was still done, how like he always had it. You know, I'm still looking. It's like, man, life is too short to be unhappy.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned that from the military too,
Yeah.
you know, but to see that, like to actually see a head decapitated from a body, not even in combat. I'm on a job site.
Right. And this is after you.
This is after. Combat. Yeah. This is actually 2 years ago.
Yeah, man.
You know? And so then we had a lot of people die in Alaska from heart attacks and some other stuff and some other problems. And so one thing too, I told myself I was never going to die in Alaska. And it was like an affirmation. I used to chant to myself, and I'm not going to die in Alaska. I'm not to die in Alaska. And 7 months ago, I got fired from my job up there. Was it because I said I was never going to die in Alaska? And so from then, it started my whole entrepreneurial business. So all those businesses I've started, the 3 businesses in the health, wealth, and happiness, have been in the past 6 months.
Wow.
It's not been 20 years. I come from a welding pipe fitter background where I made 6 figures. Last year I cleared $140,000, but I've made 6 figures for the past 12 years. And a lot of people are like, oh, when I get to 6 figures, it's not about the money, man. No. I used to hate my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's about being happy with yourself and being who your higher self is.
Man, and you know, I think a lot of people don't know that or don't understand that. Does money help? Yeah, it helps you be able to do certain things. Right. It also can help you get to a lot of your vices.
For sure.
And it can explain exactly who you are in a certain thing, in a certain aspect. Like when you said that you didn't like yourself in a lot of those ways, what do you mean by that?
Well, I work for Big Oil. You know, it's black gold. You know, I always called it. You know, you're making everyone else rich. Yeah, you got paid good money. I was making like $65 an hour. Like everyone's like, oh, you want $65 an hour? I was working 7/12, which is 7 days a week, 12-hour days, sometimes 14, 16-hour days. I was gone away from my family. My 21-year-old son, I missed his whole life. My 18-year-old daughter, I missed his whole life. My 13-year-old daughter, I missed half of her life. All right. My wife, luckily, that I met in the military in Korea during 9/11. I met her. We've been married 19 plus years. She stuck with me through all the problems, all the alcohol, all the other things in life. The mother of my 3 children. She's also a veteran. Luckily, I say, if I was married to a civilian, I'd have been divorced a long time ago. She understands. She understands the travel and everything. So I was gone 8 months a year.
Yeah.
She was literally a single mom, or what I like to call a solo parent.
Yeah.
You know, and so the single part, I don't like that, but the solo parent, because like to me, I was just a checkbook.
Right.
I came home to see what I paid for, and I left again. You know, it was like, hey, what do you guys need? Thank God for Amazon.
Man.
You know, it was like, I should have bought stock in that place way long ago.
No doubt about it.
Right, for sure. We all wish, we'd go back and do that. So anyways, to get back into happiness, like I said, I just truly, like Thinking Rich says, make a decision, turn it into a desire. Everyone's got a little flame in us. And once you start, kind of fanning that flame, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's where the determination and the persistence comes in. Failure is the path to success.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not failure, it's not failing. Everyone uses different terminology, like I made a mistake or, a hiccup or whatever. I sometimes like the word fail because the reason is because it's so negative. It's like that what do they say? The carrot and the stick. You know,
Yeah.
the stick is a punishment. If I don't want to be bad. I don't want to go back. You know, so you almost make that average net of yourself, that paradigm. Go, I'm not a failure.
Yeah.
I'm learning and growing, like you said. So every situation, like we talked about a little bit earlier, a tree doesn't tell the wind to stop blowing,
Nah.
and it doesn't tell the sun to stop shining.
Nah.
It just grows.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't beg for rain. It just grows. And Bob Proctor said too, I want to kind of touch about the happiness. He said, money doesn't make you happy or unhappy. So you might as well have a shit ton of it.
You might as well.
Right? Like you said, it's a tool.
It's a tool.
Good people with money do good things.
Yep.
Bad people with money do bad things. It's just like guns.
Man, you know what? We grew up, especially in the communities that like you learn people with money are bad.
For sure.
Are horrible people.
They did bad things to people.
They did bad things to be able to get people.
For sure.
And you know, that's certainly not true. That creates a disconnect between you and money, and also between you and your abundance and your happiness, and thinking what you can and you can't have. You know what I mean? I wanted to just talk a little bit more. Like you said, this all is just like the last 6 months.
For sure.
This abundant attitude and this abundant change that you've been going through, man. What's the best thing that you've been going through on this journey that you could see, like, hey, I'm so glad I've gave my time to this, because I don't have to do this, and I see this.
Right.
What are you seeing the most of?
So I would have to say self-improvement.
Yeah.
The words of Viktor Frankl, and he's the Jewish man that I can't remember what book he wrote, but he came from the Holocaust and he saw all these people dying. I think it was.
Oh, yeah. I've read that book.
And so I want to say it was like, to every 25 Jews, one survived.
Yeah.
And me being German and stuff, I have a good history about it, you know, obviously, and learning about it. But anyways, he basically said that the one thing that we can only control is our attitude towards anything. Everything is just an event. What we put power to, bad or good, turns it into that. Yeah. And what we put our focus to, like Tony Robbins says, our energy flows. And so if you just take an event, could be a breakup, could be, I got fired from my job. Most people are like, hey, what do you do? You know, I just kept going with the present. I let the universe give me what it gives me. And you can call Allah, God, whatever, you know, I call it my universe. Actually, kind of sounds funny, but I talk to my brain, because truthfully, my brain and me, I feel like the only things that I can trust.
No doubt
about
it.
Everything else is what they say, you know, the Matrix, or, you know, whatever.
Because you present every opportunity in front of you.
For sure.
You're basically, in reality, it's like me and you are talking, but we're mirrors.
For sure.
Whatever it is I don't like about you or I like about you is the things I like and I don't like about myself.
Yep.
And so, you know, that's a...
perception.
It's perception.
Right, for sure. How you perceive yourself from your raising, how you were, like I was raised in a certain area, like most people, you know, like I said, most people like me, they see a white guy and they're like, that guy hates black people. I was in the military. One thing I learned, when you take race and religion away from people, we were 99.9% the same thing. We all bleed, we all have organs, you cut us apart, we're all the same.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're from Egypt, you know, Asia or anything else. I even did one of those DNA tests, and I'm 7% Asian. It blew my mind. You know.
You know what's so you know what's so crazy about it is that when we straight up like identify with race, right?
For sure.
You go across seas to other places, they don't even identify with that.
No.
Like you go to Britain and you see a black person, you only know
they're just
black.
English.
Yeah, they're just English.
They're just English.
You just know they're black when they're American. That's the color thing, and I think sometimes.
For sure.
A lot of my traveling and a lot of me being able to explore, I learned that it's not about my color. It's about me and the perception and what it is that I choose to be able to, you know, to do at that particular time.
Yep.
Does it in America help or hurt? It definitely can hurt you in certain ways.
For sure.
But when you learn the ultimate goal and what it is that you looking for inside of you, you know what I'm saying? You ultimately know you're the spirit, right?
For sure.
Like you say, it's the spirit and the energy.
Right.
It's connected. And so where did, even over this 6 months, is this where all these literature books that you've been?
They did. I'll send you a picture of my library. It's grown tremendously. And so back to Viktor Frankl a little bit. The another thing too that someone can never take away from you is your self-learning. Your knowledge that you learn, which a lot of people say knowledge is power. I believe knowledge is potential power. If we don't use it, it's worthless. We just waste our time reading a book. Yeah. You know, so when I read a book, I usually read the book and I go, wow, I was lied to for a long time.
Hey, man.
And I shut that. I go, I don't know nothing about nothing. And I don't know that I don't know until I know what I don't know. And it's just like,
That's,
you know,
you
it's
know,
mind blown.
Forgetting everything that you learned
sure.
to actually learn something.
Mm-hmm.
That is a hard thing to
It
do.
is. And so one of the things to kind of get back on, I know your question, I kind of tiptoed around and I apologize, but I almost went from, I call it the little E to the big E.
Okay.
So I went from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset.
Come on.
And so I had to change the way I thought, because most people trade time for money. We want that security of a check. We want those benefits. That just makes us a slave.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care what color you are.
Yeah.
We're just slaves to a paycheck nowadays.
Yeah.
And then most people think they're a business owner. Well, they own a job.
Yeah, man.
Because I'll tell you what, if you're a massage therapist, try not to show up for work for a couple of weeks and see how that goes.
You know, that's,
now, what kind of business do you own then?
That's a real thing.
For sure.
You know, I didn't know that I was building businesses and actually building jobs for myself.
For sure.
Until I got out of the business of being, because like you said, if you don't open up, that's a job.
For sure.
That's
you own a job.
Yeah, you own a job.
Right.
Good for you.
For sure.
Yep. You know, you're still in the matrix, but you're not as matrixy as. But I want to let me do this before we even. You know, I want to make sure I elaborate on like far as like when you got started with trying to help people with learning how to be able to build generational wealth.
For sure. For sure. So what we do is we show people how to actually become a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a self-employed first, and we show people how to, for very little money, a background check and a license fee, because the tax guy knows me as a life insurance salesman. What I do truthfully is not that.
Okay.
What I do is I educate people on financial literacy that we don't get in high school. We don't get in colleges. I never received in the military. Your job doesn't give you. They always say, go to 401k, do this. Most people don't realize 401k is a tax code. And so you're going to not pay taxes now. And I would say, oh, I'll pay taxes in the future. What do you know? What do you think tax rate's going to be?
Right.
Are you psychic? How do you know it's going to be better? So you're just saying to the government, hey, keep my money now. And when you crank it up 2-3 times,
I don't care.
I don't care. No. That's not how it should work. So we actually teach people how to pay money first. Have a life insurance policy, so when you do pass away, which we all know we're gonna, you can have it invested into your trust, and it goes back to your family tax-free. That means every time someone passes away, they come up, and they come up. And it's what the Rockefellers did, and there's a couple books on that stuff, kind of what rich people do. And so teaching them people to put money in these index universal life plans, they're allowed to gain interest and not lose money because there's a floor. So as a person, to not lose money, that's unbelievable. You know, most people think like, well, I want the high gains. Well, you're going to take the losses too. And we all remember 2008 when it dropped almost 39%. Well, people woke up to half their money gone.
That's crazy because what you're saying is that it's like you guys can be able to teach you how to lock in at a price right then and there. Like you said, you don't know what the prices are going to be 5 years from now. I've never, and me and you were laughing about this, I've never seen the prices go down. For sure.
You
know what I mean? The prices are going back up. You know what I mean? So
I mean, they fluctuate, but definitely. You know, like gas is crazy. I remember, you know, I'm 43 years old. I remember gas being 85 cents a gallon. I remember taking $20, filling up my pickup truck, getting a Slurpee and a couple of beef sticks. And I'm still getting cash back.
Still getting it. That's never coming back.
For sure.
That's never coming back. So don't ever. It's like to think about, like, you know, I used to walk in the store, get some penny candy. Walk in with penny candy. Walk in a bunch of candy. That's not coming back. Penny candy is $5 now. You know,
nickel, dime. It's quarter candy.
It's quarter candy.
It's quarter candy for sure.
Like,
you get one of those Swedish fish is a quarter. It's not like I used to get 25 of those.
You used to get 25 of them. And so, you know,
with
the education, like what you're doing, like what do a person need to be able to do to be able to get through the process with you?
Truthfully, well, obviously, I'll give my contact information to your people, and obviously to your audience and stuff, and obviously share it with them.
And can I ask you this? Can they be able to get like a 10% something if they say just a thought they can get?
So there's nothing that we charge.
Oh, look at that!
So
free.
It's actually completely complimentary. So I'm not a fiduciary. What I do is I give you the financial education. You decide whether to do it or not. It's on you. I just make you aware of what's out there. I enlighten your awareness, and I go, listen, this is what's out there. This is what the tax book says. This is what this says. This is what this says. You're on your own. I've sat down with one lady actually just for the 12th time. You know how much money I charged her? Not $1. I've sat with her 12 times. That's 12 plus hours that I've sat down with her.
Yeah.
Most fiduciaries, they charge by the hour. They take a 1% to 2% management fee. We don't charge anything. An IUL doesn't require a management fee. You have a life insurance policy with an investment umbrella underneath.
Maybe what we could do is maybe we can get together and do some stuff where we can do some lives and do some stuff where people can come
like a live presentation or something like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
That'd be pretty cool.
I know I talked to my broker before I got here and stuff because I'm still in the process. I just got licensed about 5 months ago, but he's in San Diego and he's been licensed for 5 years, and he helps me huge. He sits down with my clients, and basically what I do is I sit down with the clients. I find out what makes you tick. What do you need? Yeah. I'm not a salesman. I call myself an offersman. I go, this is what we have. This is what I think. This is what I've done for people. Mm-hmm. And most of the intelligent people I've worked with, this is the path they took. Whether you do it or not, that's on you. Yeah. I don't get paid
it's a choice for it.
For sure. And choice is powerful.
Yeah.
We work with 150 premier platinum providers. Our next competition works for 19 providers. So choice is powerful. We could help people. Like we had a customer take $75,000 of debt. We raised it down to $25,000. They took $1,700 a month in minimum payments, and we dropped it down to $523. And that freed up almost $1,100 a month for this family.
Yeah.
You know, I myself, they took $20,000 of my credit card debt and they slashed it to $9,000.
Wow.
And so we can even help people with like debt relief. We can help people with taxes. We help people with estates and trusts. And we work for so many different companies. I mean, the sky's the limit. I almost call ourselves like the Expedia of financial education.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many different ways we can send you, you know. And the amazing thing is when we send you to a company and that company provides their service to you, that company pays us. Yeah. We never take a dollar from our clients.
That's beautiful.
Not one cent. So I can sit down with a teacher. I can sit down with a firefighter, a police officer, anyone.
Yeah.
Someone that just does podcasts and doesn't have a lot of money. I can sit down with someone that makes $10,000 a year. I can sit down with someone that makes $10 million a year. Yeah. I prefer the lower because honestly, the one up there, they know a lot. Mm-hmm. I want to help the low people. Yeah. You know, I want to help the people that don't have the awareness and don't have the time to do the studying like I do or the reading or whatever. And that's one of the things I give back with the happiness and the wealth and stuff like that.
Man, that most definitely. I think that is very important. You know what I mean? Sure. Like financial literacy. It's crazy. The thing that we exchange the most, we have the least education.
For sure. How money works is not taught in schools, and it should be.
No, you know what I mean? You go through school so many times and never learn how to be able. It's like it builds.
For sure.
That's another conversation for another day.
Well, they don't want us to know because you put your money in a bank and the bank makes money on you because they actually invest in these bank-owned life insurance plans. So they collect your 10% and 12% and they can never lose money. So they actually take your money, which you're only required to keep 10%, and they take the other 90%, they put in these bank-owned life insurance plan policies called BOLIs. And this is all public information. You can actually Google bank-owned life insurance policies and it will actually come up like Bank America, my bank, $24 billion. In life insurance policy.
Ain't that something?
You think it's good enough for Bank America? You think it's good enough for us little people? It's
absolutely good for us.
Right? For sure, man.
We all need it.
Right? For sure.
We all need it.
It's just awareness of not knowing what's available. And also on these IUL plans, you know, trying to get back into generational wealth, you can borrow money on these plans.
Whoa.
To live on.
Yes.
So you literally are making your own bank. And they charge a small 2%, 3% rate. And a lot of times they'll credit you back on some of those loans.
Really?
And so you're literally getting like almost a wash loan. You know, and even such a small rate, your bank's going to charge you 17, 19%. Anyways, so there's so many different policies and ways, and it's so much more information that obviously for a 45-minute show we can't really discuss much. Yeah. So like I said, we'll definitely leave some information and we can continue on. And like I said, I would love to sit down with any of your people. Yeah. And to, not saying that your audience is going to get any better treated than any of my clients, but obviously. They'll have my personal phone number.
Most definitely.
You know, they'll have my personal phone number and then they can call me anytime, you know, and leave a message or we'll get back together. And I can work with anyone in the United States. Yeah. So it doesn't matter where you are in the United States, we can help you with anything. And even if it's just a talk, like I said, you want to talk about health, wealth, or happiness. Yeah. Give me a call. Like I said, we all just need someone to talk about. And that's one thing that most men, and especially soldiers, we're forced to just suck it up and drive on. The saying in the military was embrace the suck. And we would bury stuff deep inside. Well, whenever I started talking about things and actually opening up, my life, the stress just went down.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. You show right about that, man. As men, definitely learning how to be able to speak up a little bit more and talk a lot more. What we'll do too is we'll leave phone number and everything.
My email address.
Email address. We'll put it on the screen here so you could be able to get in touch with Brian, man. Make sure you guys get in touch with him. Tell him you heard it from Just a Thought 2.0, man. He gonna take special care of you.
For sure.
Not saying he's not gonna take special care of everybody because he's a special guy for real. Yep. And Brian, man, I want to tell you, I appreciate you for being able to come.
For sure. I appreciate it.
Spend your time, man. It's a pleasure for you to be man. Honored for you to be able to be here.
I'm blessed for sure. Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, man, it's really what I wanted to make sure that I brought Brian on here to be able to tell his story, being inspiration to you guys, and also to be able to give you that knowledge that we're talking about that the 1% actually know about being able to achieve financial wealth. With me, this is another week of Just a Thought, man. Financial wealth is key to me. I think financial wealth is key to everybody, and it's the thing that stops us from being able to seek the abundance that we can actually be able to get, you know. And so I just want to thank you for the service that you're doing in the community, man. Once again, I got to give you another 5, brother, just because I'm so happy to be able to meet this brother. Met him 3 days ago. I was like, bro, I need to get you in on this podcast.
The universe,
man, the universe is beautiful, man. Make you find like-minded people.
When the student's ready, the teacher will show up. And it doesn't matter if it's an event or a person. So,
man.
For sure, brother.
With that being said, I'm going to leave y'all with those words. Peace and blessings. Blessings and peace. It's another week of Just a Thought. Peace. We'll see you next week.